So I think we're live. Are we live? We good to go? I think so.
Says live.
All right. Hi, Robert Ciresi here with Ciresi Morek, and sitting next to me is Mark Morek.
How you doing, everybody?
Hope all is well. I don't know what this is. Today is July 1st. We've been doing this now for, close to 3 months?
Yeah.
Today is the beginning of, Q3 for Ciresi Morek, as I think most of our customers as well. And I can say that I got to apologize. We're overwhelmed right now. We've been back, I think just last week, we've been averaging a job search a day, and it's overwhelming. So we're trying to take advantage of the situation right now and working 12, 14 hours a day. But there's a lot of activity out there right now. There's still some pockets, that some of our customers are still worried about the COVID. Some of our customers, for example, in Alabama, they're not sure what's happening. But overall, I'd say that we're getting a lot of searches. Our activity is up. Our sales this past month were double our sales the month before. So I think all things are good. So, you have anything to add to that?
No, it's just excited for Q3. I mean, Robert's right. There's a lot going on right now, but busy is good, and we'll take it when we can. And appreciate everybody's support and folks helping out and networking and everything else. It's been great. It's a lot of work though right now.
Yeah, I mean, for the first 3 months, we were trying to figure out how to stay in business, and now things are ramping up again. So we started doing this live feed. I started doing it from my home every week, and that was because I wanted to help individuals find an opportunity, help teach them how to interview, teach them how to answer questions or answer any questions they might have. So we're only as good as maybe the questions you guys feed us or ask us. So during this time, and today we have about 20 minutes to 30 minutes. I've got my daughter's softball game I have to get to, but she's the boss, so I've got to get down there shortly. But if you have any questions or any concerns or anything, just shoot them to Mark. Mark will get to them, and we'll answer them the best we can. Like I said, our goal is to help those who need help in finding an opportunity, learn about Ciresi Morek, some of the jobs we have, go over resumes, and go from there. Another quick note, at the end of last year, we did a survey. It was an exhaustive survey. I think it was like 50, 60 questions. And that was like all pre-COVID. It seems like there's like
BC.
Yeah, exactly. PC and after COVID, before COVID. So right now we're in after COVID, and so we're going to be sending out a survey here soon. We're going to have it on our newsletter, on our website, on our LinkedIn. But it takes 3 minutes. We're just trying to gather information about the market right now, industries, what's looking good, what's looking bad. We're going to ask questions about unfortunately Cobra. Maybe ask questions like who started their own LLC. Just see what's happening. When I talk to folks who are unemployed right now, I'm always stressing, hey, create your own LLC, create your own business, kind of the just in case. So when a company maybe wants to hire you on a consultative project, you're not you're able to just pick it up very quickly. I mean, Mark and I just yesterday talked about hiring someone for our office that can manage our consulting business. One of our customers needs an HR manager, and they want to hire someone to go on a consulting basis, and we're not set up that way. Maybe next week we will be, but I think there was a study months ago that I think Mark brought to my attention. Just the next generation doesn't want to work full time. They want to work as consultants. It's very, very screwy, but we're going to try to find information on that on our survey as well. So once again, it's going to be on our website, our LinkedIn, on our newsletter. And speaking of our newsletter comes out,
15th.
15th of the month, middle of the month. And on our newsletter, and if you subscribe, or you can find it, I think it's, I don't know if you can post that for us, but, we'll put our jobs, activity, articles, whatever we might find that we're not covering during our YouTube broadcast. So sorry for being so scatterbrained. We do our best to manage it, but today, Mark and I have been just bombarded with searches, activity, follow-up. We still have to run a business. We have every time we're not here, we're at home, and then we're working nonstop, and just to make sure things are smoothly, taking care of our employees first and foremost. So Mark, anything you want to add to that?
No, let's jump into placements.
Okay. A couple of our placements that we made. Mark, one we picked up a customer. Mark, we made Jeremy White. We placed Jeremy as, I think, a director of distribution with a company here locally called Wholesale Supplies, locally here in Northeastern Ohio. Laura Lee Evans, we placed with Myers Industries. Laura Lee, congratulations. She's the director of HR now for Myers. She was with Sanko Bond. And then remember that past couple of weeks, Aunt Millie's, who I had no idea who Aunt Millie's was 3 months ago. Come to find out they're the 18th largest bakery in the country. And I guess with all of us eating bread, Mark and I especially, Aunt Millie's is growing. So
just like us.
So they're hiring a bunch of folks for us. So thanks, Aunt Millie's, is a kind of a shout out. So awesome. Some of our active searches.
We do have to introduce Gary.
Oh yeah. If you guys don't know the guy behind us, every week we try to. Mark and I like to bring a little flavor to our office. I think that's mine. Over there. Every week. So behind us is Gary Johnson. If you guys don't know Gary Johnson, look him up. He's the guy that said, "What's Aleppo?" So then he bombed out of the election in 2016. So some folks in my office wanted him. So let's go into some of our newer jobs. And today, I literally got I think 2 or 3 openings today. So right now, we still are looking for a controller in the Louisville area, a job that pays about $150,000. We got a search in Minneapolis for director of HR for a role, probably about $150,000. HR manager out in Toledo area, plant manager in the Solon area, operations manager in the Solon area, GM out of in the Toledo area. That's a big job, probably about $200,000 a year job. Still looking for an automotive salesperson in the Toledo area. We're real close to filling a controls role in Youngstown. Still looking for a commodity manager in the Dayton area, compensation manager in the Columbus area. We just got a really cool search from a customer in the Detroit area, director of business development and strategy, someone who knows the e-mobility. Looking for a director of HR in Detroit. Still looking for a director of manufacturing engineering in Detroit. Director of supply chain in Dayton. Still looking for a director of operations Chicago area. Let's see. HR managers in Evansville and St. Clair, Michigan, Evansville, Indiana. We're looking for maintenance managers everywhere, Detroit and Richmond. Operations manager and quality manager in the Tuscaloosa area. Plant manager in Nashville. Let's see. Vice president of HR in the Detroit area. Vice president of operations in Grand Rapids. Vice president of purchasing in Detroit area. VP of ops in Minneapolis. Automotive salesperson here in Northeastern Ohio. I think that's most of it. So, like I said, and we filled this month. We filled I want to say 7 positions this month. So there's some activity there. So
and it's awesome to see too, because I know there's a lot of questions out there with COVID-19 and everything that's going on, but I mean, especially in this last week, we've seen an uptick. So it's been exciting for us. Don't know what tomorrow will be, but right now we know things are going in the right direction. So.
I asked the audience, whoever's watching, and whoever wants to send us a question to ask us anything. We're an open book as far as how search goes and how it works and our customers. One of the questions we asked is like some of these searches you guys are seeing on LinkedIn, whether it be ours or somebody else's, are they real? This is what I'll tell you. A lot of our businesses, and this is really interesting. It's we kind of call it the COVID replacement. A lot of our customers are looking to replace folks who currently work for them, and it's an opportunity to confidentially replace someone. So they may call me and they say, "Hey, Joe Smith's not cutting the mustard. Who do you have instead? We're going to let that person go, and we want you to replace that person." I think I might have talked about it 2 weeks ago, but that is happening a lot. That's what we're seeing a lot of. Also, as far as our business goes, our business right now, we used to be more proactive, meaning I could take an individual, Emma, whose resume I'm staring at right now, and be able to market that person, and actually market someone to one of my customers. We can't do it right now. Everything is just very reactive. Our customers are calling us. We're jumping on a search. We're identifying candidates in 2 or 3 days, and we don't have the opportunity to literally just try to market someone or develop a strategy. Every day is just grind. It's fun, but that's where we're at right now.
And if you don't mind,
Yeah.
I just had a conversation with a client of mine I've known for 15 years, and she basically has to go to the CEO of a $3 billion Fortune 500 company to get approval to replace anybody right now.
Yeah.
So that's across the board.
Yeah.
You know? So
I would
that's
agree.
just kind of what's going on.
Are there any questions that we have, Mark, or anything?
No, not yet.
Okay.
We did have John, who joined us, who was talking about it. He's got his own LLC.
Cool.
So that was earlier on when we were chatting about that.
Is that all you said?
Yeah, for now.
So, John, regarding your own LLC, I don't know, like for example, with me, when I started my business, I had an S Corp set up, but just make sure and the reason, and I'm not a tax professional, but the reason I had an S Corp set up was in 2008, when I started Ciresi and Ciresi, at the time Mark and I came together in 2011, I made a bunch of money. And I'm not patting myself on the back, but I made enough money that I could put some money away into my 401k. So I basically set aside a number. Okay, this is what my family needs for the year. Once I hit this, everything is retirement and 529 and so forth. But just make sure you look at that, because there's advantages for an LLC and S Corp. Like I said, talk to whoever your tax accountant might be, or your accountant might be, because if you're making all this money and you can't put some away and put it away in your own 401k, just understand and make sure you know how that works. But I advise, if you're going to do a consulting approach, get it set up sooner rather than later, so you're not fumbling with how to get paid by a company like we do on a daily basis. So I'll let Mark talk about our next subject. Mark?
Yes, thanks, Robert. I appreciate that. If that didn't sound like a news anchor handover, but maybe we are getting a little professional with this. So if you guys noticed, back on Monday, we posted, John said he's got an S Corp too. So back in Monday, we had an article that was posted by Gina Veshnestein, and she's a freelance one out of LA, and it was called The Financial Diet. I don't know if you guys had a chance to read it or not, about job search advice, things that's more harmful than helpful right now. And there were a lot of points. She made 7 key points, and most of them lined up very well with kind of how we think and what we think in our position. I don't know if Anna can post it up there or not, but well, hang on a second. Before we jump into this, Rob Caring has, what's the best way to develop a rapport to be considered for the opening? I'm an HR guy in the Detroit area.
We'll go ahead.
Okay.
We'll grab it.
Yeah. Hey, Rob and John, we'll come back to that here in a second. So, the first one is, you hear all of these euphemisms. I'm sure when, especially when you lose an opportunity or you get unemployed or get furloughed or whatever they want to call it, it's a blessing in disguise. It can be, but at the same time, there's a point in there that you're going to be angry about things, and that's okay. So, don't feel like you're out of sorts with yourself or anybody else, or what's wrong with you if you're actually pissed off that you got laid off or furloughed, especially if you've been a long-term employee. They talk about using this time to start a company. She talked about that in freelancing, consulting, or, forming a business. Some folks are able to do that and others aren't. It's one of those things, like, don't feel compelled that you've got to start your own thing. Not everybody is set up to be an entrepreneur. Robert and I come from different backgrounds. This fit for us, but don't overjudge yourself or beat yourself up if it's not something you're going to be comfortable with. The one point here, they talked about don't work with recruiters, and go to the company themselves. It was actually awesome to have somebody who has nothing to do. I mean, this woman, Gina, has nothing to do with recruiting. And she is actually, kind of going against what folks are saying about not using a recruiter, that you should go directly to HR. Even before COVID stuff, listen, yes, we have a vested interest in these things, but if you find a good professional recruiter that you can partner with and you trust, that's going to keep your best interests in mind, we can be one of your biggest allies through this whole process. So, when they talk about going directly to HR, before COVID-19, I'd argue with it, but now post COVID-19, I would absolutely recommend you don't do it. Right now, HR people, and again, the woman I was talking to earlier today, I don't know if Tracy's on here watching this or not, but she was talking about how their HR department is so inundated with trying to adapt to these COVID-19 standards. They're partnering with environmental health and safety folks to try and get this done. They really don't have time to look at people who are applying. So to have an inside, quote unquote, inside person that can help get your information in front of these folks, I mean, we can be a huge ally to you. Now, the other point here, and then also it kind of goes hand in hand. The fourth point was talking to a recruiter if they don't have a job for you. I mean, listen, for 3 months, for Q2, basically we have a mascot in the office here. We may bring him in later if you heard the dog bark. But, people giving you advice about not talking to recruiters unless I have a specific job for you, I don't necessarily agree with that. Again, you form a relationship, and good professional recruiters are going to want to form a relationship with you and not just transactionally slap you in front of a client and hope they place you. So it's something to consider when you're looking through this. The other thing is...
Let me jump in on this.
Yeah.
One. Guys, and everyone, pointless talk to recruiters if they don't have a job for you at the moment. I talk to everyone who calls me. If you shoot me an email and you want to schedule a time, I chat with that person. And I'll tell you why. It allows me to remember you. I have a very, very good memory when it comes to this kind of stuff. I have a terrible memory about anything else, but I can remember resume, where they've worked, what they've done, who they know, just how my brain works. So my headhunters are actually trained not to interview you based on what your resume, I guess, suggests. The first question is, and this is how I train my folks, is learn who you are, what you want to do, and then take those, gather that notes, and then try to make matches so when they come. So, for example, if I know someone wants to run a plant in Charleston, South Carolina, I'm taking those notes, I'm writing them down in our system, and I'm just remembering that. So when we get that search, I'm saying, okay, let's call Emma. I remember 2 weeks ago, she said she wanted to go to Charleston, South Carolina. Or just today, we got a search in Minnesota, and a guy that I worked with 3 or 4 years ago that I probably spoke to for about 45 minutes, and we didn't talk much about his resume, just a very good conversation about nothing. Like just who you are, what you did, your hobbies, just crap like that. And now, because I had that conversation 3 years ago, when my customer said, hey, I need a VP of operations in Minnesota, I didn't have to go on LinkedIn or ATS or just squabble around. I called a guy named Stu. I remember Stu lived in Minnesota, and it was that quickly. Most of our searches are basically me or Mark, the guys remembering who to call. And it's not because we have this system that generates something so quickly. It's because we take the time, and hopefully the candidates take the time to get to know us. And it's a very, very quick, matching. So, but go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's a great point. Thanks for bringing that up. The last 3 points here, the last one is a numbers game. And it talks about if you're applying directly to a company and you're fit for 3, to apply to all 3. Some folks think, well, I applied to, it's different when you're applying to a company or you're applying to through a recruiting firm. For us, please do not apply to every job you think you're qualified for. If you apply to one, because of our process and what we do, we're going to make that match if you're a fit and get back to you. We have some people, we'll send out an email, into our network asking for like 15 different positions or 10 different positions, and we'll get people that'll reply to all of them. You don't need to do that. But when you're applying into an organization directly, if you're doing that and you're not working with a recruiter, it's a numbers game. Take a shot. We said this before on our broadcast. Apply to as many positions as you think you're qualified for. Now, if you're not even close or not even in the zip code for that search, then don't waste your time or theirs by doing it. But, if you think you could do the job or you want to get in front of them, it's worth doing it. So you need more up in bats than anything else. Okay. And then the last 2 is your chance to apply to a grad school or think about, starting your own thing. I think 1 and 7 are kind of together. But the grad school idea, for me, listen, I'm a 49-year-old guy. I've got 2 kids that are, one's out of college, one's going to be out of college. Going back 10, 15 years, if I would have lost my job, would I have been able to do that, trying to put food on the table and support them? No. If you're able to do that, it might be something to do. But typically, a midpoint MBA is used as a pivot point for you to pivot out of a career or try something new. So again, don't feel pressured, that you've got to get all these certifications or spend all this much time and energy and effort if you don't have it trying to reinvent yourself. Okay. So again, thought it was a really good article. And again, we're trying to keep things compressed. So we don't go too long with it, especially with some of the questions that are starting to build up now and the resumes we're going to do. But if you have any other questions on that, feel free to shoot me an email, mmorek@ciresiandmorek.com, or you can give me a call at, my direct dial is 440-630-9470. If Anna Marie, if you wouldn't mind throwing that up. If you guys have questions, feel free to reach out directly. So, and then the last 2 things here, and I would really encourage you to go to our website, to our blogs, and Anna Marie, when she gets a chance, if you can throw that up, where our blogs are at. These 2 blogs talk about working with hiring, working with recruiters, and tips and tricks to try to find your next opportunity. So, they're good information. This is stuff either we've, swagger jacked off the internet or stuff that we've created originally. Yes, swagger jack, new term. So if you're looking for the opportunities or help on how to transition, it's good information to jump into.
One of the things that I'm reading here says, build your network, just reach out to as many people as you possibly can, be sincere, and you may be surprised. Your network will give you a lift that you may not anticipate. Call people, pick up the phone, or just schedule a video chat. So for me, I've been getting hammered on LinkedIn messaging, so much so that I'm almost ready to turn it off. And it's just every person out there pings me. And I'm consistent, and I'm not a LinkedIn messaging person. I'm much more of I manage my Outlook. It's hard to manage both and text messages and cell phone and so forth. Because ever since we went and we worked remotely, there's just messages everywhere. If you have questions for me, or if you're trying to reach somebody, shoot them an email. I know for me, you hear different patterns. I respond to every email. I try to get every LinkedIn message. A friend of mine who I remember looking at his cell phone one time, he had 1,000 messages in his inbox. And he had a rule, if it wasn't directly sent to him, he deleted them. So for me, like I said, if you want to just shoot me an email, rceresi@ceresiandmorek.com. But you have to imagine folks are getting bombarded on LinkedIn messaging, and it's really, really hard to manage because you have to go into, especially if you have LinkedIn Recruiter, there's LinkedIn messaging, LinkedIn Recruiter messaging, then there's my Outlook, and then there's my Gmail. So you try your best, but like I said, at least for me, when I'm trying to reach somebody, I said, like, I'm trying to reach the CEO of Moen, and then I kind of when I send her an email, I just put, "Hey, hello from Robert Ciresi. You got a second?" Or just something to catch someone's eye. That works for me. Maybe for you, do the same thing. But but reach out to your network or pick up the phone. I try to call everybody back. I just can't. By the time I leave here at 7:00 at night, and my drive home is 10 minutes, I'm sitting in my driveway with my kids just staring at me saying, "Now can we practice basketball or baseball, whatever it might be?" So I try to make all the phone calls back. But you might want to try someone a few times during the day. If you catch them, great. But that's just speaking from my experience. So.
And our emails are right on our LinkedIn, and you got them here. It's easy to get somebody's email nowadays.
Gotcha. Anything else on this, Mark? We're talking about this other blog or the Goldmine information blog review.
No, it's good information. I'd really encourage you to take a look at it. The big pull or the big takeaway from the LinkedIn blog that we've got posted is, and I think Anna just posted it, put it in the chat window. And we've said this before. Your resume has to line up with your LinkedIn profile. It has to be, that could just blow something up completely. It gets into integrity issues and a whole bunch of other things. So, resume, LinkedIn, alignment. Okay.
What were some of the questions people had before we get the resume?
Yeah, so Rob Herring asked, what's the best way to develop a rapport to be considered for the openings? I'm an HR guy in the Detroit area.
The best way to develop a rapport with the HR openings. I'm not sure who you're trying to develop a rapport with, Rob. Can you share? What does that mean? With us?
Well, I think it has to do with us.
Call me. 440-630-9469. Shoot me an email. Call me. And if you're trying to... A couple of my guys in my office do HR searches. There's myself. There's Ken Pettis. There is Richard Crew. And there's Ben Evans. I do my best. Ben Evans is really good. Richard Crew is very good. Ken Pettis is learning HR. If you want someone who's going to market you better, I would probably go Ben or Ricky. I just don't have the bandwidth to, because I'm the guy getting as many job openings as possible. So I'm just on the phone all day long with customers trying to get the openings. Then the guys in my office go find the candidates. But I'd probably say Ben or Ricky. And then regarding rapport in the Detroit area, I don't know if Detroit has a SHRM, or here in Northeastern Ohio we have like a Northern Ohio Human Resources Council. And then they have a search firm called Ratliff and Taylor has a private group for only CHROs. So that's what I would recommend. Or hell, if you're in Michigan, I don't know if you got your undergrad from a Michigan or Michigan State. Maybe they have a networking association. So you'll find that HR folks want to take care of our HR folks.
Rob spoke to Ben in June.
There you go. Stay on Ben. Harass Ben. I think right now in Detroit area we have maybe one or two I don't know what your level is, but just ping Ben and stay on Ben's radar. What's next? What's the next question?
So John Cupp, the guy with the LLC or the S Corp, was talking about he's looking for a long-term leadership position. President, VP, GMMA. So it really wasn't a question. Guys, do we have any other questions out there right now that we can answer for you? Going once. All right.
So we're going to dive into some of the resumes, and if you have questions, ping me. But I have a short window because if I don't see my daughter, she will kill me. Resume review. I think I'm pretty consistent on every time I see a resume what I say. So Emma, if you're watching, we have I think 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Emma, if you're watching. Now, listen, Emma, this is just me, and Mark may have a different opinion, but I think your resume,
too many words.
So the first part of your resume where you have all these bullets and all these, I don't read any of that stuff. I don't read business acumen, labor and employee relations, contract negotiation, union avoidance. I can care less. Just it's a bullet and it doesn't really apply to me. Whatever. It might grab what is it? The search
ATS. Yeah.
It might grab an ATS for search engine optimization. But I do like the fact that you put building collaborative relationships and effective teams. But you're obviously an HR professional looking for an HR leadership role. High impact results. That's fine. But once again, you start to the bottom of your page 1 to actually tell the reader where you work and so forth. You work for McKesson. I don't know which McKesson that is. The only McKesson I can think of is a large Fortune 500 company, maybe based out of Dallas. I think that's the one. So, like I said, I always tell folks, if you're working for a company that large, give a little more. I see $190 billion provider. That means they're a Fortune, 250, Fortune 100 maybe. But I hate to go to the bottom. I'm quick. I mean, Mark, for example, he'll read every. When we always joke when I buy a car, I don't read the manual. Mark reads the manual. I just push buttons. In our industry, not a lot of folks read resumes. They want to see who you worked for, what you did, what you accomplished, and the growth, the years that you worked somewhere. So I think overall the resume reads well. I'm not a big fan of bullet points in the beginning, but you've worked for some powerhouses: McKesson, BP, Frito-Lay. Are you from the Midwest? I see you went to Notre Dame. You got a great graduate degree, you got.
Did you mention the no city state?
Yeah, you do have no city state, so nobody actually knows where you live, which is okay. I think you're probably in Dallas or Texas because I see BP, Frito-Lay, and McKesson. So, honestly, and this is, I don't know why you highlighted Bachelor of Arts and not Notre Dame. I don't understand the flow there. I think as far as but hell, you got two very powerful degrees and you bolded the degrees, not where you got them from. So that's just my 2 cents. What do you think?
No, I agree. I mean, the education thing, it's always a discussion. It's who you ask. My advice on that is if you're over 10 years of experience, you can get away with putting the education where you have it now, unless it's a premier university or there's some compelling reason to put it at the front. I think because of the degrees, Notre Dame, and the labor relations, you really should put it someplace up closer to the front. I mean, and then, in line with what Robert said, the high impact results, it's just a lot of information, and unfortunately, you're going to, again, my opinion, you're going to lose a reader right out of the gates. So, just something to consider.
It's a fine line when you go to a school like Notre Dame. I always tease Mark, and Mark went to West Point, and Mark has his master's as well. Some guys, and we call them the ring knockers, not to upset Mark, and Mark's all his friends, but sometimes you'll see his degree plastered right on the front of the resume like West Point or Naval Academy. One guy there we talked to, he was a Naval Academy grad with an MBA from Harvard. It was at the bottom of his resume. Remember the guy who worked for Old Castle?
Yeah.
He's like, I just don't want people to judge me and think I was a ring knocker. But you got to be careful. But hell, you almost went the opposite way of hiding it. I mean, those are two awesome schools. So that was Emma. Richard Johnson. So Richard, the first thing I noticed your resume, Richard. Okay, Richard. I'm gonna speak directly to you. You're local. Okay, cool. So I gotta believe, Richard, you're more senior because of the way you created your resume. And when I mean more senior, you're probably someone who is maybe 30 plus years of experience, which is fine. But what you have to do is, if you have that much years of experience, maybe stop getting the dates on your resume. It appears you've been unemployed for over a year now. Get rid of the months. Hide the months on your resume. Maybe put a year, for executive director, but get rid of the months on your resume. It doesn't help. That's the first thing that stood out. Overall, I think your resume actually reads pretty well. You're just falling into the years of experience, worked for one company, but overall, I think it looks pretty well. In fact, Richard, if you're watching right now, I have another resume from a guy named Bill Quinn, who you might know. Bill Quinn was he was the HR guy at General Motors in Tonawanda, and he had an awesome resume for a guy like yourself with years of experience within General Motors. It might help you as far as creating a resume. But other than that, I think your resume is awesome. You went to a good school. You went to where I went, Purdue. I presume you're from the Indiana area, but I would get rid of the months. Those are killing you, man. Just put 2002, 2019, and I don't know who you worked at. I don't know who I don't know what these facilities were, but
I was just gonna say that would be one thing. I mean, I know everybody knows GM, but Richard, just put a little blurb on who they are, just for consistency. That would be the only thing. I think there's a lot of good information you have here. I like how you went concise with the additional relevant experience and tried to add some kind of clarity to it. The only thing is, down here he's doing the keyword search thing, I think, with all the skill sets, it's just kind of the, information and buzzwords, that can be hit or miss on stuff.
Bill, Richard, you might be a candidate for, and right now that industry is kind of slow, but working for like a Seraph or a consulting group that goes into, it might be tough for you to find a role in here locally because all your experience is so tied to automotive. Because it's just here in Northeastern Ohio, I think nobody's here besides Ford. You have General Motors there on Brook Park. But you might, if I can help you, I'd probably push you towards some of my friends who, like yourself, started their own consulting businesses, and they go into your trouble. Like, GM says, hey, like, for example, SMP down in Alabama, it's an Indian-owned company that I think won all the interiors bid for Mercedes, doing a horrible job. So they've hired consultants, through the roof. So I've got friends who are there nonstop trying to help launch these parts. But call me Richard, and I will do my best to help you, sir. That's not a problem at all. Next up would be David Kerr. I can say his name. David, no idea where you live. That's that. I mean, so if I'm a headhunter, I'm going to say, okay, I see you worked. I think. Hold on.
Yeah,
So,
you mind if I jump?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm trying to put this all together.
Yeah, Dave. So David, and don't know if you're Dave or David, but one of the things, you got a lot of summary up here. It's not really that much of a summary. Maybe boil that down a little bit more, because you've got the summary and then you've got your bullet points here as, kind of your 3 columns of things that you've done. I think you can shrink that up. Definitely need a city state. XPO Logistics. Yeah. Who are they? What do they do? Like, I know they're a pretty big name. I've seen them before, but I don't know what they do. So, help me out and put a line or two under there of who they are. Size, scope, responsibility. Are they LTL or, what is it, like long-term, full truckload or half truckload? Are they a 3PL? Kind of, what do they do? I know you, and then as a business unit manager, you've got a bullet of what your responsibilities are. But I always recommend put a line or two describing what you do right underneath your title. And then it looks like, kind of like Richard, it looks like you've been out of work for some time. Take the month off. It doesn't help you, okay, with regards to that. And then bullets should be reserved for quantitative and qualitative metrics, right? Measurable things. We either save companies money or we make companies money. So when you were a business unit manager for US and Canada, what kind of money did you make? And then keep that consistency throughout, right? Tell me what you did as a director of sales. What was your responsibility? A couple lines, and then bullet out what your accomplishments were.
I noticed executed fleet strategy and tactics to increase profitability and reduce costs. That's almost a responsibility, not an accomplishment. So, like I said, if you're going to put the responsibilities and accomplishments, but like I said, I don't know these industries, so if I look at your resume, I see business manager. I have no idea what the hell business manager does for LTL or business manager does for XPO. I have no idea what LTL does. I have no idea I don't know. So you're presuming, unless you're just setting industry specific, I would put a tagline who these companies are. It looks like your background's in logistics, so comprehensive logistics, and Youngstown's hiring. So there's one for you. They are they're always hiring though. Sorry to knock on comprehensive logistics, but they're always looking for folks. Let's see. This resume had a PDF modification. So this is, I see, Nisha. Is that right? Nisha. So Nisha, we're not specialists in healthcare administration, so it's hard for us to, if Mark and I work on Chevys, it's hard for us to work on a Mercedes. So we're not that knowledgeable about how your resume should look in this industry. Compared to our industry, you definitely try to grab the search engine optimization by putting every possible buzzword in there, from program development, project management. That just doesn't work for us. You're just trying to catch something. But unfortunately, I can't tell you how to make this resume and make it more attractive in your industry. Once again, but go ahead.
But I think so. Yeah, we're definitely manufacturing, Nisha. But I think one thing, a couple of things. The format that you have, I know for us trying to import something like this causes issues with the ATS, even in a PDF form. But also, kind of like what I was saying earlier on the previous gentleman's resume, your bullets should be quantitative and qualitative metrics. not your responsibilities. And I think that's a common error that folks make no matter what industry is, tell me in a couple lines of what your responsibilities are, but then your bullets, your call outs should be like those wow things, those things you're proud of, those things that you as an individual differentiated at your current company, the things that you were able to accomplish. And again, qualitative, quantitative metrics. So, but I mean, it looks nice. I just don't know how useful it is from that standpoint.
I would say this, Nisha. I was looking for your contact information all over your resume.
Yeah,
it's on the bottom left-hand corner. Doesn't stand out. It's almost like an expiration tag on a license. You just make sure it's, rather than maybe put it up on, historically, I understand you're trying to make it look different, but I was looking, like, where the hell is your address? Where do you live? How do you find Nisha? So I personally, it would be awesome if you had it on top, underneath your name. But it's a nice resume. We just don't know this industry very well. And I'm sure if you print this off and you give it to a hiring manager, that person might be able to read it very easily. But for us, we get a resume, we get 1,000 resumes a week. It's just
easily, yeah.
What can we get in, get information, and read very, very quickly. And this might be great for a one-on-one interview, but it might be a lot to bring in when a system, we always call it the matrix, is taking 1,000 resumes in and try to organize them all. So that's the hard part. You want a resume that kind of slips in there or slips in there very easily, and presents well. But then when you go to your face-to-face interview, you can bring something that's a little prettier. This is definitely prettier. Just not sure how functional it is. So I think last but not least, we cannot use this name. We're going to call her Tracy. That's about it. Tracy. So as you can see, Mark and I kind of just look at the resume very, very quickly. I tend to go top to bottom. The top, HR technology is great. Education, fair enough. Bachelor's Art completed. GravTech, it's a brand name. I'm sorry, I can say that. That was a long time ago. HR administrator.
Well,
you got a lot of jobs. That's the first thing someone's going to ask. So the first thing that pops in my brain is, why do you have so many jobs? And I don't know how to. That's a hard one. Because it's every 2 or 3 years you're looking for a new opportunity. I see the consultant from 2010 to 2015. I don't know if there's much. I mean, you present it all there. You're not hiding anything.
No, from that standpoint, yeah. I would say, because I think what you're doing, Tracy, because of the jobs you've had, you're trying to consolidate your accomplishments. I've never been a fan of pulling those out separate like that. I always think they're more powerful if they're in context. And from an accomplishment perspective, again, kind of going back to what I said earlier, I always try to hang on a second. Yeah. When it's in context, that it's quantitative and qualitative, right? So even in your profession, your background, there are ways to quantify what your impact was on the business. Every job function impacts the business positively or negatively, and there's revenue saved or revenue helped to generate. And I think if you can tie it into that the best, then it's going to showcase yourself. You're going to showcase yourself stronger in that.
Tracy, my advice would be, if you're looking for a permanent role, this is probably the best role, a very good resume for you. It looks like you've done contract work and so you've done contract work here and there. You've consulted here and there. You might contemplate putting together a a functional resume compared to a chronological resume, just because you've had so many moves. And maybe if you put together I can able to help you that as well, but might be able to create just a simple one page. This is who Tracy is. This is what she's done, and this is some of the companies that she's worked for and been successful with. because people, the first thing they're going to do, they're going to say, wow, this person's had, just like me, they've had a few roles, but it may not be a bad idea to put together more of a, like I said, a functional resume, because putting together a chronological resume might hurt you. And this, like I said, a functional one could be a one-pager snapshot of some of your accomplishments here and there. That would be my suggestion.
Okay. I found this on the web for a chronological function would be a one-pager.
Hi, Siri.
Hi, Siri. That's cool. So Tracy was asking a follow-up. She said, how do you apply for a job out of state? And then why would you put where you live?
How would you apply for a job out of state? And why? One more time.
How do you apply for a job out of state? And then the follow-on is, why would you put where you live?
So if you're looking to apply for a job out of state, so the where you live, and I've talked about in the past, at least for us, that's kind of a conversation starter for us. At least if I see someone grew up this part of town or that part of town, or maybe where they live, it allows us to have a quick conversation with that person. If you grew up in, Vermont or something like that, like it's a quick conversation starter. I don't recommend putting your, your zip code. I'm sorry, your street address. Just probably kept the city. If you're looking to apply for a job, Tracy, let's say your whole resume is Northeastern Ohio. Yeah, it's Northeastern Ohio. If you're trying to get a job in, who knows, Charleston, South Carolina, then underneath your name, you got to put in there looking to relocate to Charleston, South Carolina. Give the reader something. It's hard to apply for a job out of state without some kind of addendum or a letter or something or other. But if you're going to do it, put in there that you're looking to relocate to that area so the reader knows that, okay, I have this person's resume from Ohio. Why do I have this person's resume from Ohio? Oh, right here, looking to relocate to Charleston, South Carolina. That's what I recommend. But at least for us, we hate relocations. Relocations are difficult. When we do our searches, I think one of the things that we try to do is we do a 45-mile radius of that location. And most of the time it works, other than certain areas that there's just not a lot of manufacturing yet. There's going to be. But that's what I recommend. What's the...
No, and then... So that was Tracy was asking that, and then David Kerr was coming back. He was a gentleman on XPO. He was saying that his career has been in education. How can he get past that? So I'm assuming, David, what you mean is that since September of 19, you've been in education, and then how do you get past that? If that's the case, my suggestion would be maybe you feel differently about it, but you've got to have... I think it hurts you to not have something there than versus that you were working on the education side of things. So I don't know if you have a different opinion on that. It's better to have something on there than to have it look like you haven't been working, for over a year.
And I do have to get wrong, guys. Like I said, you can always shoot me an email, give me a call, 440-630-9469. I've got my wife asking if I'm going to be somewhere 20 minutes away in 10 minutes. Is there anything else?
I think that's it. Tracy was just kind of clarifying what happened. Listen,
Tracy, just call me.
Yeah.
Shoot me an email. We'll schedule a call. Ciresi at CeresiMorek.com. And then I think something just posted up, David, is regarding the education that you, I guess maybe that you don't have one. Well, David, there's no solution to that. You either you do, you don't, or you're working towards it. It's hard to suggest that. For years, I always tell folks, if there's an opportunity for you to go back and get something, or that maybe you're trying to get back for, some of the coolest things I tell folks is one of the coolest things, and I learned this years ago. A guy named Tony Lang. Tony Lang was my old neighbor. Tony Lang I placed in 2001, and this is how my brain works. And Tony's an Italian like me. Tony was a maintenance electrician for a steel company here in Cleveland. He had his associates. Well, Tony, good friend of mine, kind of a Goomba, right? Tony. And Nestle's wanted to hire him to be a maintenance manager over Nestle's here, and you can't get a Nestle's without a 4-year degree. So one of the conditions of the I don't know what Tony had associate, I think is working on his associates. So one of the conditions, and it was in the offer letter, and it was Angela Green. Angela's now like the head of HR for all of Nestle's. And Angelo is one of the greatest people in the world. We're going to hire Tony, but he's got to finish his education. We're going to pay for it. We see so much in Tony that he's got to finish his education. And if he finishes education, then everything's good. Not only did he finish his education, then he got a master's, I think, in engineering, then an MBA. And now Tony's he's a vice president with Nestle's. But going back to the educational piece, which I think is really, really cool. So when I see resumes, I'll notice, for example, if someone's graduation year might be after they've started their career. So, for example, I see, I don't know, what always comes to mind, like Davenport, Michigan, or any of these schools, let's just say 2000, but you started your career in 1992. Well, I'll notice the pattern, and I'll see, for example, that someone may have gotten their education midway through their career, and I also notice there might be a gap here or there. So someone didn't work somewhere 3 or 4 years and have a company like an Eaton or whatever pay for their education. So what I always tell people to do, if you're working on your education, finish your education, if you self-funded your education, if you actually busted your ass, got your education, worked hard, didn't have a school, and didn't have a company pay for education, highlight that on your resume. You put in there self-funded or whatever it might be. I personally think that's a huge accomplishment that really, really stands out. So, I got to get out of here. Is there anything else we got to cover?
No, that's it. We're good.
Okay.
Rondell's going to give me a call tomorrow, so we can talk about a couple of positions he's interested in. But, guys, really appreciate everybody's involvement and participation. And not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after that, we will see you again.
All right. Take care,
Send
guys.
us questions.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.